My name is Paul Oliver. The name of my company is Pinellas Power Products. I've got two accessories here for the Honda EU 6500 IS generator. The first one is a remote fuel tank to extend the runtime. Because if you already own one of these beasts, you know that it has a 4.5 gallon fuel tank on it. That's not quite large enough to run all night long under a full load without having to stop and refill. The second accessory item I have is a long-range wireless remote control. So first I'll start with the fuel system. My runtime extended fuel system contains everything you need except for the fuel tank itself. By that I mean it does include the quick disconnect that you can screw into either a marine style tank or a large bulk tank. But it does not include the fuel tank in my kits. I do sell two different sizes of fuel tanks. You can either order one of the fuel tanks, or if you've got a large bulk tank or some other form of tank, that's perfectly acceptable. But to operate the system, it's quite straightforward and simple. Number one, I've put the fuel tank and the generator on approximately the same level, because I strongly recommend that you put them on level ground. The kit contains a fuel pump to transfer the fuel. It is not a gravity feed system, so you don't have to worry about putting the fuel tank higher than the generator. That's not necessary with my kit. First step is to take the fuel hose and look at the prime bulb. There's an arrow on the prime bulb. Make sure that that points in the direction of fuel flow, which means from the tank to the generator. Connect one of the quick disconnect fittings to the remote tank. Connect the other quick disconnect fitting to the generator. Then open the vent on the remote tank. Then turn the fuel selector valve on the generator to the on position. What we're going to do now is simply purge any air that's in this hose, and this is only needed to be done on the first startup or any time this hose is completely removed and therefore air would get into the system. But with the fuel selector valve in the on position, you pump the fuel prime bulb until it became firm, and that usually takes about 3 or 4 pumps. Once the fuel prime bulb is firm, then you move the fuel selector valve to the off position. Keep in mind, all you're doing is pulling fuel out of the remote tank, pumping it through this hose, in through this fitting, through the fuel pump, and then with the selector valve in the on position, it then goes backwards through the fuel petcock and into the fuel tank where the air is purged through the stock fuel tank vented cap. But at any rate, to run it off the remote tank, you would then move the selector valve to the off position. So think of it as the remote tank, you put it in the off position. For the stock tank, you put it in the on position, which would be straight up and down. We're going to be running it on the remote tank now. So at this point, the starting procedure is just like in the owner's manual. You simply turn the key. As simple as that. The next item is my wireless remote. My wireless remote is the most advanced feature-packed wireless remote that I know of. Most of the wireless remotes on the market simply stop and start the generator. Mine uses button number 1 to start the generator. Button number 2 would stop the generator. Button number 3 is used to toggle in and out of economy mode. And if you read the owner's manual on the generator, Honda requires or recommends that you start it in standard mode, warm up the engine, and then put it into economy mode. If your remote control only starts it and stops it, you either have to start it in standard mode and leave it there, or start it in standard mode and then walk over to the generator and flip it into economy mode. And I'm thinking, what's the point in buying a remote control that doesn't operate your economy mode switch? Then button number 4 turns on and off the bottom 20 amp outlet. And that's so that if you've got a travel trailer or something plugged into one of the larger plugs, and a single item such as a light or coffee maker or something like that that you wish had a remote control but it doesn't, the generator can now remote control that separately on its own. This wire is simply the wire that goes to the antenna. So don't let that wire confuse you. I'll go into a greater explanation of this in the installation instruction videos. Just make sure that the antenna is up on top of the generator. The key fob for the wireless remote control has an extendable antenna. That's one of the reasons why mine has such an incredible range on it. Starting procedure is turn the key to the remote position. Then to start the generator, make sure that the economy mode switch is indeed in the standard run mode, like the owner's manual says. But press the start button, which is key number 1, and you only have to press it for about 1 second. Shut that light off by remote control, you would push button number 4. If you wanted to turn the light back on, you push button number 4 again. If you wanted to put it into standard run mode, you push button number 3 again. And then if you wanted to shut the generator off, you push button number 2. This wireless remote kit will come with 2 of the key fob size remote controllers. The key fob remote controller we've tested, and we're reliably getting 400 to 500 feet. If you're going to be in a situation where you require a longer range or a more powerful signal, like if you are in a steel building and the generator is held in another steel building or a shipping container or something like that, and you need to transmit through several walls over a long distance. I also sell this remote controller for it. This remote controller is not included in the kit. It's available separately from me. And we have tested this one, and we are getting reliable signal and control for 2,000 feet. Obviously, it has a longer antenna, but the controls on this are the same. I'm going to go ahead and shut the key off so it doesn't start on me while I'm talking. But button number 1, or A on this, is start. Button number 2, or B, is off. And button number 3, or C, in this case, is toggle in and out of economy mode. And in the bottom button, number 4, or D, is turn the outlet on and off by remote control. The normal default position is standard run mode, and if you're operating it locally here, you'd start it with the key, and then to turn it into economy mode, you'd use the switch. If you're using the remote controller, you'd put the key in the remote position, and you toggle it in and out of economy mode by button 3. The default position for this outlet is on, so if you lose your handheld remote controllers, or if you've got kids and they lose them or whatever, this outlet is in the on position. If you needed to shut something off from this outlet and you no longer have the remote control, it's very obvious, you simply unplug it. We're going to take a break for a minute here, so you're going to see the screen go black, and then we're going to go outside so that I can demonstrate the effectiveness of both of the remote controls. Like I said, the small pocket remote control, we're getting 400 to 500 feet reliably. And the large remote control we're getting up to 2,000 feet reliably. But this remote control is going to be sold separately. It's not normally included with the kit because I cannot foresee most people needing that, because Honda's own remote control for this generator, they advertise as having a distance of 50 to 75 feet. And all the other remote controls I've seen on the market say between 60 and 100 feet at best. So since my small remote controller is 400 to 500 feet, I think that that's more than enough for most situations. However, if you do require more than that, as you're about to see in the next section of this video, we've got that handled. And I think that's probably as good a place to take a break, and we'll pick it up in a couple of seconds.